It's recording. Okay, so welcome to the Sports Commentary with Gabriel Nason podcast. I am here joined with our friend Bob Beatham once again. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
For the clarity for everyone around here, we filmed the first minute and a half around, and things went sideways with the recording. We're starting again. Here, better the second time. Don't worry about that. First takes they weren't good enough. Second time through, gonna be better. So, Bob, what we got to talk about today?
We are going to be talking March Madness, and we're going to fill out the ultimate bracket, the bracket of integrity. I'm a one bracket person. I don't mess around with other brackets. These are who my picks are, and then if it goes well, I can take full credit for it. And if it doesn't go so well, which it usually doesn't most years, then I will take the fall for it. But Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, so I'm going with one bracket only.
Absolutely. We had a little discussion before. I'm a multi-bracket guy. I say I have one, but I got multiple, but really I have one.
Dude, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, so let's talk about this fantastic bracket that we have going on here. It's the greatest time of the year once again. These one seeds, Purdue, UNC, Houston, and UConn. Who is your strongest one seed?
I would say the strongest one seed would be Connecticut because they're the most complete team. They've been the most consistent team all year. Again, they've got size. They rebound the ball very well. They can defend. They can shoot threes, defend the three well. So I think when you look at complete teams, a team that can win 6 games in a tournament, the only thing is when you get to a tournament, there's a lot of teams that can win 1 or 2 games that might play a style that can, if they have a real good night shooting the basketball, could cause an awful lot of problems. May not necessarily win 6 games in a championship, but there's an awful lot of teams that could win 1 game, and there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the number one team in the country and maybe the number 35th or
Hmm.
40th team in the country.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a wide open tournament, and your guess is as good as mine. But we're going to unveil the uh, my bracket here in just a few moments.
Absolutely. And we'll start. We'll just get some things going, and then we'll pan you over to the bracket. You can see it, and you'll watch Bob Beatham over here fill that bracket out and give you what he's got for the year. What is the hardest road for any of the one seeds in any of the brackets? What's the hardest region to get through?
I really don't know because sometimes the key to winning a tournament is to have other teams do the dirty work for you. Um, You look at Connecticut's road and you look at that East region, that certainly looks like the most loaded. But hey, upsets happen in the tournament. I remember North Carolina in the East region; they came out as an 8 seed, played a 15 seed in the round of in the Elite Eight. So you never really know, and sometimes teams can get hot in the tournament. You never really know. I would say the East right now looks like the toughest region, but a lot of strange things can happen along the way too.
Yeah, and I mean obviously, like you said, the Yukon bracket is real tough. You have three of the final four last year in that bracket side. Um, who is the easiest? And I put easiest in air quotes because none of it's going to be easy. But who has the easiest path to a Final Four matchup as a one seed?
I would say possibly Purdue, although again they've got to get through their first game. They lost as a 1 seed to the 16 seed last year, the only second time that's happened in tournament history. But you look down through the bracket as well. You've got a banged up Kansas team that may just be starting to get healthy too for the tournament. Had a rough end of the season. Gonzaga's a 5 seed. Mark Few certainly does a great job in the tournament as well. That they've got a tough matchup with McNeese, I think, in the first round. And then TCU is not going to be an easy matchup as well. So again, the term easy is certainly relative. And in one bad game and the other team gets hot, you can certainly go home very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it's a loaded thing this year. You got a million teams who could go far just because of the talent that they have on their team. Um, what do you see as the Cinderella team that can make a deep run?
Yeah, I look at Purdue's bracket. I really like Samford and Kansas in that matchup. I think Samford has a really good shot, and they could very well face McNeese in the second round. And so the winner of that, you would have a double-digit seed going to the second weekend. I also like Oregon too as an 11 seed. They won the Pac-12 tournament, knocked off Arizona, which Arizona's one of those teams too that's been a mystery all year. They look when they play well and they defend, they've got national championship caliber talent. But again, they haven't been consistent doing that all year. But I think they might be the most talented team in the country, including Connecticut.
I like that take. So let's talk about players. Who is your player to watch going into the tournament? Can make a run, or maybe it's a one seed who has a great player. Who's your player to watch who could be the guy where we go? It could be your Max Abesmith a few years ago when he made a run and was going crazy. Um, who is your guy?
I think Shannon for Illinois, I think can certainly be a tough matchup. He had a really great Big Ten tournament, so I think you certainly look at him. Obviously, Zach Edey with Purdue, tough to stop 7-4.
This is
So
true.
that's one constant that they have. And on the defensive end, he can certainly alter shots as well and make things very, very difficult for teams on the defensive end.
Yeah, and I will say for Purdue, it felt like they avoided their probably the scariest matchup. Two bigs, one who's above 7 foot, one who's 6'9", but both who can play underneath. And so I thought for sure if Purdue got Florida Atlantic as an 8 seed on their side and Florida Atlantic were to win, that could be an upset. But I think that probably TCU or Utah State is going to be interesting as well. TCU likes to run up and down the floor, so that could be interesting as well.
They do, and I think with Purdue too, if you can speed them up a little bit, I think that could really cause Purdue some problems as well.
So you know, we talk about all these bubble teams as the tournaments go on. You have your conference tournaments, and everybody's like, "Oh, who's on the bubble?" And then we had a ton of bid stealers. Who do you think is the who got robbed of a spot this year? Who was your maybe you have a few teams, but who was it that you said, "Oh wow, they didn't make the bracket"?
When I look at it, I really don't think there's anybody. Again, you can kind of split hairs as well, but when you're taking 68 teams and you have that many at-large teams as well, I think all of the teams that got left out, you can look at reasons why they didn't either. They didn't have enough quality wins this year, or get a number of factors that might have played into it. So I don't think there were any, huge snubs this year in the tournament.
Okay, so was there anyone you were surprised by? Not maybe not necessarily that they made the tournament, but somebody who was you thought, oh, maybe they'll be a first four game and ended up not getting a first four game there instead in the bracket solidified.
Not really. I again, you once you get about, there's probably about 10 or 15 teams you're really splitting hairs to. I don't think there was a major snub or major, seeding issue. I think, overall the committee did a really good job this year with the seedings and also, who got in and who didn't.
Yeah, and as a guy who watches a lot of conference tournaments, who who were you cheering for in their conference tournament that just barely missed it? That you were really hoping would make it to a conference game? Was there or to the actual tourney? Was there anyone in mind for you that you were kind of hoping maybe they'd be able to sneak it in?
Not in particular, not really.
Okay. Obviously a huge year this year for the one seeds going down in conference tournaments. It changed things up a ton. Um, I think you had just yesterday you had six um, at-large bids basically stolen by teams who weren't supposed to get at-large, who weren't supposed to get qualifying wins, got them and stole them from people who needed them. Obviously, you had an NC State. Um, I mean, among lots of others. Obviously, you had Oregon as well. What can you say about how open this feels this year, with how maybe tight the talent level is at the Division One level?
Yeah, I don't think there's an outstanding team this year. I think those top seeds, when they're at their best, might be a step above. But again, some of those teams have even been inconsistent this year and lost to teams that you kind of look at the result and think, okay, well, how do they lose to this team? But I really think the tournament is wide open this year, and not a whole lot would shock me. But again, I'm going to fill out the bracket, but as far as level of confidence, I wouldn't say that I'm real confident with any of my picks this year.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I mean, last year, obviously, like we said, we had no. 1 seed, correct? Because UConn was a 4.
UConn was a 4, and then we were 2 5 seeds in Miami and San Diego State, and Florida Atlantic as a 9 seed.
Yeah. So I mean, no one's made it last year. It feels like that could happen again this year. It could be another crazy year like that with the teams that we have at a level. Let's stop talking and let's do what everybody came to watch happen. I'm gonna move the camera. You're gonna get yourself ready. Let's get everybody what they want to see.
All right, let's do this.
Oh Lord, I'm knocking things over.
Don't be breaking the equipment here. There we go.
All right. So let's start. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start upper left or upper
We're gonna start in the East bracket. So I'm gonna go Connecticut over Stetson. So we're gonna fill in Yukon Huskies here. Illinois. I like the physicality of Illinois, but again, if BYU shooting the basketball, they're going to be a tough out. But I'm going to go Illinois.
And like we said, I mean Illinois is going to be a hard out no matter who you are facing up against them right now.
And then you've got Drake and Iowa State. I just like the way Iowa State defends, and I think they'll defend enough, make it difficult for Drake. I think Iowa State coming out of there.
Yeah, and obviously you had another Iowa State like we talked about beat Houston, who like we said would have probably been the one overall 1 seed if they had won that.
Now we get to the Sweet 16, and I think this this is a phenomenal Sweet 16, and I believe these games are going to be in Boston.
Yes, they are.
They're going to be in
They
Boston.
are.
So, man, I should have gotten tickets for that, but
For
that's
real.
yeah. I mean, this would be a great Final Four.
Yeah, you aren't kidding.
Yeah. So you got UConn and Auburn, but be a great national championship game. Man, this is a tough pick, but I'm gonna go Danny Hurley and the boys. That's gonna be a great game.
Mm.
Sweet 16 matchup. I'm gonna go Connecticut.
That's one of those chances to have an all-time type of game in the tournament where both teams like it's neck and neck, comes down to the final shot, and you see something crazy happen. It feels like that could happen with that type of game.
Just going with the experience of Connecticut, again that game could go either way. So I'm not overly confident about that, but I'm gonna go with Connecticut to win that one. And then Illinois and Iowa State. Again, another tough matchup, but I like Shannon for Illinois, and I'm going Illinois in that one. Iowa State's had a great year, but I'm going to go Illinois over Iowa State.
So you got the 1 versus the 3 on that side.
I do. All right, so now we're going to go to the West region, and you've got North Carolina. They're going to get the winner of Howard and Wagner. And Howard's got a main connection too, a player played at Wayne Fleet that plays for Howard. So they're going to be playing either Tuesday or Wednesday night in the first 4 game in Dayton. Again, we're going to go to North Carolina to advance in that game.
Not picked a 16 seed to win yet.
No.
There's still a chance. There's still a chance for those who are hoping. Still got 2 more chances.
And then the 8-9 matchup, you've got Mississippi State, who's been hot and knocked off Tennessee in the SEC tournament, going up against Michigan State, who always seems to find a way sometime in March to make things difficult as a low seed. Tough to go against Tom Izzo in March, and I'm going to go Michigan State over Mississippi State in that one.
I brought the stat off camera, but I'll bring it on camera now. Michigan State, Tom Izzo, when he's coached as the lower seed, wins 65% of the time. So he's better than 50% chance when he walks in that building, which is quite insane because the amount of times you have to, I mean, you lose once, you're out. So the amount of times you have to win to make it 65 is not easy.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go Michigan State in that one, and then St. Mary's and Grand Canyon, another 5-12 matchup. Grand Canyon can get up and down the floor. They've got some athletes. I'm going to go Grand Canyon in that one in the 12-5 matchup. That's going to be my upset in 12-5.
I like it.
We're going to go Grand Canyon.
Obviously, I mean they ran through their conference. One of the few 1 seeds who really dominated their conference tournament.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Grand Canyon over St. Mary's. 4-13. I think we talked a little bit about this one off camera too, but Alabama and Charleston. Alabama can make shots. They can score a lot of points. They're also going to give up an awful lot of points too. The way they play, I'm not sure is conducive to winning a tournament. However, and then Charleston, uh,
They can score.
they
They
can
can
just
also score the ball.
yeah. I'm going to go Alabama, but honestly, I would not be surprised if Charleston won this game. I'm going to go Alabama to beat Charleston.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said, I mean, a million. It feels like a million different shots going up in a game. Yeah. I mean, these two teams are going to throw up a ton of shots. Both teams are going to shoot a ton of threes. I mean, it's going to be one of those crazy games.
And then you've got Clemson, who's got some size, kind of fizzled a little bit down the stretch. And then you've got New Mexico, who won the Mountain West tournament. I'm going to go with the 11 seed New Mexico in this one. Actually, at the early line, they were a 1.5 point favorite over Clemson. So I'm going to go
Wow.
New Mexico.
Clemson is also one of those weird teams, right? Because like every year it feels like they get a high seed when they probably shouldn't, and then when they have a low seed, they play well. But when they have the high seed, they tend to fall flat on their face pretty quickly. Um, I love that New Mexico State team was a potential at large bid. Said, to heck with that, we're gonna go win the conference instead, and there they are.
Yeah, and if they hadn't won the conference tournament, they may be on the outside looking in with all the other
Yeah,
upsets that happened in the conference tournament. So they get another life. They win the conference tournament, and I think they keep it going and beat Clemson. Now on the other side, you've got Baylor and Colgate. Again, Baylor, if they defend it, again they can knock down threes. Scott Drew's really done a phenomenal job there at Baylor. So I'm going to go Baylor over Colgate.
that one's an interesting one too, right? Because Baylor, you know, they they have the talent. They shoot the ball really well from three, and they've had moments this season where they've fallen flat on their face, but they've also had moments where they look like one of the best teams in the country. And here we are. I mean, they played really close with Houston. They may have beaten them, but I don't remember.
And remember too, when they won the national championship, they went out early in the conference tournament and then ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah,
So um, I think sometimes we have a little bit of recency bias as well. We look at teams in the conference tournament and we really focus a lot of attention on the conference tournaments, but sometimes teams can regroup a little bit if they get knocked off early and make a real run as well. Dayton matchup with Nevada. Nevada now coached by Steve Alford. Was at New Mexico, formerly at Iowa. I'm going to go the 10 seed Nevada over Dayton in this one. Nevada can really score the basketball, and I'm going to go Nevada.
and obviously you have Dayton there too, who's a team who's an interesting watch, right? Because they were picked to win their conference, and then things kind of fell apart there. Lost in their first game of the conference, and then ended up, still getting a 7 seed. So an interesting path there for those two teams.
It is, and Dayton's another team can also score as well. So I think that could be a real high scoring game, but I like Nevada to win that game in the 7-10 matchup. And then the 2-15, you got Long Beach State, who coaching situation. They announced on Monday that the head coach was not going to be back next year. All they do is a 5 seed in the conference tournament. Is they go on and win the conference tournament. So that kind of leaves an interesting situation there. But I'm going Arizona, and that Arizona's been a funny team this year, and I think Arizona's got national championship talent. So, but we're going to go Arizona in that one.
Yeah, and we both agreed off camera, right? Arizona has all the talent in the world, but they've played games this year where you shake your head kind of at like, what are they doing? And still somehow here we are talking about them. They look like a team who could still win the national championship.
Now you've got we're going to go on to the second round games: North Carolina and Sparty, Michigan State. I don't know if all the one seeds get to the next weekend, but I'm going to go. This is my upset here. I'm going to go Michigan State. Tom Izzo getting to the next round, so I'm going to go Michigan State over the Tar Heels.
Obviously breaks my heart. I'm a huge UNC fan. Talked about it a few times on the podcast, but huge UNC fan, so that one hurts my soul a little bit. But I agree. I mean, you have a Tom Izzo team. I mean, against anybody, like we said, 65% chance. That means you win at least. I mean, what? What does that mean? You win at least at least 2 in a tournament almost every single time because you have to lose eventually. So you win at least 2, maybe 3 in a tournament. I mean, if you're averaging 2 or 3 wins in the NCAA tournament, it's pretty good.
I was in attendance the year they won as a 7 seed at the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, knocked off Rick Pitino and Louisville in the final out
Mm.
in Syracuse that
Yes,
year. So
yes.
I was at the Carrier Dome that year watching that, and
It must have
got
been a good watch.
that was fun. I got to see Magic Johnson in the stands, so that was cool.
Shoot, dude. That's
He
a
had,
pretty good alumni to have
he had
every
much
time.
he had a much better seat than I. Although I had a pretty good seat, but his was much better than
Yeah, I
mine.
can imagine. Was it on the court side? I'm
He was,
assuming
I
he
think
was
he
sitting
was,
court side.
I think he was 3 rows behind
Oh,
the
yeah.
bench. So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I was actually I was in the upper deck, 3 rows back. So
Oh, that's not bad.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
about mid court.
That's pretty nice.
It's a good seat,
Yeah.
good time.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, especially seeing a Michigan State team, right? Seeing
Absolutely.
Tom Izzo coach any time's got to be a fun experience because of who he is, right? It'd be like seeing Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah, they beat Oklahoma in the Sweet 16 game, and then beat Louisville in the um, final to get, and then they got beat by Duke in the year Duke won the national championship.
Yeah.
So
We don't talk
beat
about the years that Duke wins.
no beat Wisconsin, who Wisconsin knocked out that undefeated Kentucky team that year.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
So now we're moving on. We got Grand Canyon and Alabama. Teams that play pretty similar styles, but Alabama's just got more weapons. I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide to beat Grand Canyon and end their Cinderella story there. So I'm going to go Alabama.
An interesting little thing there, right? I mean, obviously that's 2 teams who are going to run up. If we thought Alabama Charleston was, Alabama Grand Canyon might be 110 to 115.
Yeah, again, styles really plays a big part as far as how teams advance as well. Alabama teams that can slow them down a little bit might have a little bit of difficulty, but they're going to potentially face 2 teams that like to play up and down the floor, and certainly Alabama likes to play at a very fast pace as well. So I'm going to go Alabama to get the Sweet 16. New Mexico and Baylor. Baylor defends and they make shots. I'm going to go Baylor over New Mexico. And then I like Arizona. Arizona scares me because I always seem to buy into the Arizona. I look at Arizona. I mean, they got a bunch of big tough dudes that can
Hmm.
rebound the ball but if they defend, they could be very, very difficult. A team that could bother them though is a team that might slow them down. So I'm gonna go Arizona because Nevada's gonna like to play at an up and down pace, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna go Arizona in that one. So we're gonna go Arizona to advance.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like Arizona from last year, right? I mean, that Arizona team from last year felt like just as good as this one, if not a little bit worse. This team's really, really good. Just can they get it done when it matters most?
And then you got Michigan State and Alabama. Michigan State will control tempo enough, and if they can defend enough, I'm gonna go Michigan State again. So
Dang, deep run for Michigan State. I like it.
and then you've got Baylor and Arizona. This is a tough pick for me. I want to come back to this one.
That's fine. We can come back to it. It's up to you. You're the one who's
I don't know.
making the
Does any?
bracket.
I don't know. We have a coin handy too. This one might be a coin flip. But um, I'm gonna go with the Arizona Wildcats in this one.
Oh,
We'll go
okay.
Arizona. So now we got Arizona, Michigan State in the Elite Eight.
Very interesting. That's like a new blood versus a blue blood right there with Arizona and Michigan State, right? I mean, Michigan State's the perennial, very, very good team, and Arizona's the new kid on the block who's been very good for the past bunch of seasons.
Oh, Arizona always has talent. They always have. For some reason they seem to fall short, but I always seem to convince myself that this is the year. So we shall see. Now we're going to go to the other side here, and where should I stand? To figure out how to.
Hmm. That's a good question. Um,
Let's take it. Let's put the camera over on this.
okay.
Okay, we're we're gonna take a time out here. We're gonna adjust the camera so you can see the other side of the bracket, and so my ugly face isn't blocking the bracket here. So I'm gonna go to the South region right now. We've got Houston against Longwood. We're going Houston here in this one.
I don't think you have to explain that one, right? The one versus the 16 seed, not
Te-
likely to happen, especially with them.
Texas A&M and Nebraska. Nebraska in the tournament for the first time in many years. Texas A&M under Buzz Peterson out of the Southeast Conference. Again, they've always been really good defensively. They can also score this year. They rebound the heck out of the basketball. I'm going to go Texas A&M, the 9 seed, over Nebraska on the 8. So we're going Texas A&M here.
This was an interesting one to me because Texas A&M was obviously reportedly on the bubble and then they lost to Florida. Nebraska, another team who was on the bubble and then lost, and they get matched up 8-9 with each other. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, those 8-9 matchups I think are very interesting. We're going to go Texas A&M in that one as well. Wisconsin and James Madison. Wisconsin has shot the ball very well in the Big Ten tournament against a James Madison team that's red hot right now. That's a tough pick right there. Got to pause on this one for a minute. I'm going to go with the Badgers right now, but it would not surprise me if James Madison pulled off the upset. But I'm going to go with the Badgers.
I'll say that one's my for the people at home who are wondering what I think. That's my big upset right there is Wisconsin having a great run in the Big Ten and then James Madison, who is very good, beating them in the first round. But I like Wisconsin as well. I like them if they make it out of that game. I like them to probably make it to the semis. But
They very well could. And Wisconsin, James Madison went on the road and beat Michigan State at Michigan State this year. So
yeah,
um, Duke and Vermont. I'm going to go Duke in this one.
this is an interesting one because I think a lot of people think that Duke is not nearly as good as that seed says because they don't think they played a whole lot of people. ACC not very good this year. I've heard a lot of Duke not being great, and Vermont obviously being who they were this year, being great in the America East. Just give me a quick little insight as to why you think Duke wins that.
I'm not sure Vermont's quite as strong as they've been. Again, they were number one seed in the conference this year. They were not as dominant in the league this year, but again, they found ways to win. I like Duke to win that game and to move on. Texas Tech and North Carolina State. Texas Tech really defends. They're really tough. North Carolina State, 5 games in 5 days. Now you got to turn around emotionally. It wasn't so much the physical wear and tear, but I think emotions of winning 5 games in 5 days. I'm going to go Texas Tech in the six with the 6-11 matchup.
Texas Tech, another very interesting team, right? That was very good for a lot of the year and didn't necessarily have that showing in the Big 12 tourney, but NC State, the surprise, shouldn't have made it. Here they are, now an 11 seed, which was also wild to me that they were seeded that high, especially after barely making it. But it is what it is, and it's an interesting little matchup there.
Absolutely, and then you look at Kentucky below that. Kentucky's had some early exits the last few years,
Yep.
playing against an Oakland team that could give them some trouble. I'm going to go Kentucky in this one. I think Kentucky's a team that might be able to make a run in this tournament as well. And if they can defend, because they offensively they're very very good. I'm going to go Kentucky. Shepard, very good guard for them, and I'm going to go so be Kentucky. Florida against Boise State and Colorado. Florida really suffered a key injury today. They played really well at the end of the season, but I'm that one of that prelim game. I'm going to go. I think Colorado wins that
I
game.
think so
Boise
too.
State, Colorado. I'm going to go with the play-in winner here. So I'll just write in play-in winner right here. I think they win that game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that them losing Florida losing their big today is very not good, obviously. And I think it's going to hamper them when it comes to playing that whoever wins that playing game.
And then Marquette and Western Kentucky. I'm going to pick Marquette to win that one in the 215.
That one's pretty self-explanatory too. Not much to talk about with the Marquette team, who's been amazing so far. Has been amazing all year long. Obviously, have an injury to their best player, but as long as he's fine come time, I think he only missed like the last 3 games or something, but it sounds like he'll be fine. If he's fine, they'll be fine.
Absolutely. Houston and Texas A&M. Texas A&M can score.
Texas all around. It's that the war of Texas, Houston versus Texas A&M, not that far. Well, kind of far from each other, but not crazy far when it
not
comes to
not
Texas size.
not too far. What, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours from each other.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm going with Texas A&M in this one.
I
I think
like it.
I think they could score enough, and I think that'll be a battle. So I'm gonna go Texas A&M will beat Houston.
You know, it's very funny. Last year, Texas A&M was also a I think they were an 8-9 matchup last year as well, and it was a team that a lot of people picked to go deep and barely, I think, barely escaped the first round, or either lost the first round. They have the talent to do it. Their offense is very good. Their defense is very good. It's just they were inconsistent a lot this year. If they can play well for enough games in a row, they'll have a real chance to be making a deep run.
And Buzz Peterson can flat out coach too. Had a great run when he was at Virginia Tech, and then done a good job at Texas A&M. So I like Texas A&M to win that game, and then Wisconsin Duke.
Oh,
I'm going to go Duke in that. Duke has trouble against teams that are real physical.
yep.
Wisconsin, will shoot a lot of threes. If Duke can get out on shooters, I'm going to go Duke in that game to beat Wisconsin.
Okay. I like it. Rematch of 2015 national championship, right? Was that 2015?
That is correct.
Oh, look at that off the dome.
Absolutely. I had not thought of that, but that's a good point though. So, but I'm going to
Very different teams, obviously.
very absolutely very. I mean, I hope there aren't any 9-year seasons.
Okay. Let's go with your next one. It is the play-in winner, which you said likely Colorado versus Marquette.
I think that's a tough matchup. Colorado's got some really good athletes. They can get up and down the floor. Marquette, if they're healthy, I'm going to go Marquette in this one. But again, I think that could go either way. But I'm going to go Marquette. And then you got Texas A&M and Duke. I think the physicality of Texas A&M could bother Duke. That could be a great. I'm going to go Duke in that one.
Gonna make you really challenge your writing skills, being so far away from it.
And then in the Kentucky Marquette game, I am going to go Kentucky to face Duke in the Elite Eight game. Couple of blue
Oh,
bloods there in the Elite Eight. So I'm going to go with Kentucky.
feelings of the year that North Carolina won the championship and faced Kentucky in the um, it might have been, I think it was the Elite Eight that year. But yeah, shades of that
I
going
believe
on.
so.
Yeah, I like it. I like the interesting matchups. Obviously, you got Texas A&M going a little bit. Kentucky Marquette, obviously very interesting. Two teams that have been very good at times this year. Kentucky obviously been the more inconsistent of the two, but I like it. What do you got in the next region?
All right, we've got Purdue. We're going to advance them against the Montana State Grambling winner. We're going to go with Purdue in that one.
You heard it here first. No one seed's getting upset.
Well, since the tournament expanded in 1985, there's only been 2 number 1 seeds that have gone out. So I feel pretty good, and Purdue's not going to have it happen 2 years in a row. TCU, Utah State. I'm going to go with. I'm going to discuss it too much. I'm going to go TCU in this one out of the Big 12.
You think they run them out the gym?
I like TCU to win that one. McNeese and Gonzaga. McNeese is a team that I think can really turn them over. Will Wade, former LSU coach,
Mm.
coaching at McNeese. Another 12 over 5. I've got to go with a couple here. So I've gone with one so far. With Grand Canyon winning, I'm going to go with McNeese in this one.
I will say, um, one thing on Purdue, right? The only other team to lose to a 16 seed next season, they won the national title game.
Absolutely.
So history is on their side, even though it's one one time. History is still on their side.
And then you've got a banged up Kansas team taking on Samford that can really get up and down the floor, spread you out. I'm going to go with Samford, the 13 seed. That'll be my
There we
upset.
go.
We're going to go Samford. I think this could be kind of the wild bracket here.
Yes,
So
agreed.
I'm going to go Samford.
3 of the 4 being seeding wise upsets. Obviously, TCU I think probably will be the favorite when that opens. But
Then the rest of the bracket, we've got South Carolina against another double-digit seed, the winner of the Pac-12 Conference of Champions tournament. Which, as an aside, too, we will really wish all of the best to the great ambassador for the Conference of Champions, Bill Walton.
For sure, for sure.
Unfortunately, Bill had to miss over the last month of the season. I guess he had some health issues, so we wish you all the best for Bill. Bill, thank you for your life. We uh, we really missed you the last year of the Pac-12 as we know it.
Yeah.
And Bill Walton is a national treasure if you don't realize that you are lacking joy in your life. Bill
This is
B-
true.
Bill Walton is a national treasure, and we miss you, big fella. So
Yes, no question.
throw it down, big fella. So we wish Bill Walton all the best as he recovers from whatever health issues he's having. But I'm going to go with Oregon over a South Carolina team that really overachieved this year, and
Yeah.
they were picked to finish last in the SEC this year at the start of the year. And I'm going to go with Oregon to beat
So
South Carolina in this one.
the 11, the 12, and the 13 seed all winning in the same bracket sounds like a great time in March Madness.
Yeah, there's always one region that's chaotic. I think it's going to be this one. So
Like,
we're going to go Oregon in this one.
I would agree.
We've got Creighton taking on Akron. That's an interesting matchup. The MAC champions out of from Akron, but I'm going to go with Creighton to advance this in the tournament. So we're going to go with Creighton, the 3 seed.
Creighton, a very interesting team. I think if they're gonna make a run, they're gonna slow people down, and it's gonna be like probably a lot of close games, just because of the way they play. Um, Very interesting team that could be a little bit of an upset. Like they could go far.
Speaking of teams that like to slow you down, we got Virginia, Colorado State.
Oh man,
That could be, and then they're going to play Texas.
yeah,
And
that is,
Texas could have a difficult time with one of those teams.
yeah.
I think Texas though scores just enough, and I think I'm going to go Texas to advance in that one.
I would agree with that one. I mean, obviously, whatever team comes out of there is gonna try and slow you down and muck you up. But Texas obviously a great offensive team. That Max Abe Smith guy that we were talking about earlier on that team. So guy who knows a thing or two about making a deep run as a team who is not expected to.
Sure. And then you've got Tennessee against St. Peter's, who made that incredible run 2 years ago to the Elite Eight. Tennessee's been a team that's got knocked out fairly early in the tournament, although was able last year to it was last year that they got to the Sweet 16. So beat Duke in the second round. I'm going to go Tennessee to beat St. Peter's.
Obviously, St. Peter's, like you said, the had that great Cinderella run. Not that many, not that many years ago. It was the year after COVID, so it was 21, I think, right? Because there was the empty stands games that they made that run, right?
22.
22.
Yeah, because North Carolina they played North Carolina in
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
Elite
Right,
Eight, and then North Carolina went down to New Orleans and got to the finals. So
right, right.
that was
Forgot
a
about
full stands of 78,000 in the Superdome.
that.
So
That's a little bit more difficult than no people in the stands,
right,
or very few.
absolutely. So all right, we're gonna go Purdue TCU. I think Purdue's size is going to prevail over TCU in that game. But again, TCU can really get out and pressure the guards. But I'm going to go Purdue.
I think this is interesting too because a lot of people I think are low on Purdue. I'm not very high on them, but I would agree with them at least getting their first two games
Yeah,
as wins.
I like the bracket that they're in, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they've got a really good chance to make a run here. And then you've got McNeese and Sanford,
Hmm.
and I'm going to go with McNeese in that one. So we've got a 12 seed getting to the elite to the Sweet 16, which always happens.
In a very very good 12 seed, that could be a an upset there too. I don't know what you've decided, but a Purdue McNeese game would be very interesting. I'll say that much.
Could very well be. Another potential upset. I like Oregon, the Pac-12 Conference of Champions winner. I'm going to take Oregon, the 11 seed over the 3 seed Creighton. So we're going to go Oregon. So we've got a couple double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16.
I like it. Had two last year too, and I feel like we could have easily have the same thing happen again.
Dana Altman seems to get it done in the tournament.
Yeah, always. He feels like he always overachieves when it comes to tourney time.
And then the Rick Barnes matchup. Rick Barnes, formerly the coach at Texas, now at Tennessee. Um, Dalton Connect and Vescovy. I think Tennessee gets it done, and I think Tennessee will beat Texas.
Tennessee, obviously an interesting team, right? They felt dominant all year long. We're fighting for that last one seed with North Carolina, and then they dropped out of their. They didn't drop out. They lost in their tournament, and North Carolina made it to their title game. I think that was the difference in the one seeds there. But they could have been a one seed. They were a really, really good two seed.
They are. Again, they stumbled against Mississippi State, but I think they regroup, and I think they make a nice run here in the tournament. So now you've got Purdue and McNeese. That's a really interesting matchup.
Very interesting.
I'm going to go with calendar coming up. We've got the first round games. Well, first 4 games on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the tournament really gets going in full force on Thursday. So we are really, really looking forward to it. And and again, if you're going to bet on the tournament, please bet responsibly.
Yes, for sure. Did you see? This is crazy. So before the tournament had even started, and the only thing you could bet on before the conference tourneys were over and they released the bracket was on who you thought would be the champion. You want to guess how many? I'll say how many dollars, but how much money was already bet before? This was this morning. How much was bet on potential winners?
I've got to believe it's close to $1 billion.
$1.2 billion before they even announced the bracket, which is crazy.
Now, I will do my one bracket of integrity this year. I've got a pool that I'll be entering, but that's basically all that I do for the tournament. And well, we just have a lot of fun with it. And I did actually win a pool of money one year.
Really?
I won $1,200. $10 I put in and won $1,200.
Dang.
2000. Now, fortunately, they have not asked that I rescind the tournament. It was the year that Louisville won the national championship,
Really?
so they eventually had to rescind the championship
Yeah.
because of the well,
Robert Pitino.
yeah, you can't, yeah, you can't be buying hookers for the players,
No,
and
that you cannot be doing.
no, not even under the name, image, and likeness that we have today can
Yeah,
you be
no,
buying hookers for players. So
no.
no,
Speaking of Rick Pitino, did you see what happened with them in St. John's? He already declined the NIT
I did not
invitation.
see that. No.
Yeah, he already declined the NIT invitation,
Yeah, Indiana did as well. Indiana will not be participating in the NIT.
which is weird. I mean, this is a side note. We talked about the bracket, but now we're just kind of talking. But um, it's weird to me when a team declines an NIT invitation. I get like maybe you don't want to play, and maybe you won't have some players who will actually play, but why decline it?
Yeah, it gets an opportunity to extend your season and also get ready for next year.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I mean, obviously not many people know who the NIT champions are. Like that like when it comes time for that because everybody's watching March Madness, but I mean, if you're a fan of one of those teams, you're like, "Man, I would have loved to watch them compete for an NIT championship."
Of course, the NIT championship used to be played in Madison Square
This is
Garden.
true.
Where is the NIT? I believe it's Las Vegas this year.
I think so. I think it's
Yeah,
Las Vegas this year, which again would be so fun. Obviously, you couldn't do all the Las Vegas things as a player, but that would be fun. Play like because the crowd's probably crazy because they're all anything that goes on in Las Vegas, there's a million people there. So it's got to be at least somewhat entertaining to go play in front of all those people.
absolutely. Of course, Madison Square Garden it was held for many many years,
Yeah.
and then so that was kind of a tradition. So obviously, if they were playing in the Garden, then possibly St. John's would be interesting. You basically
Yeah.
have a home
Home
game.
game the whole
Yeah,
way through if you can
right.
win it. Yeah. Well, after all that said, we just want to say thank you for listening. Um, let us know who you guys have as your national champions. Um, coming into the bracket, obviously being announced today at 6 o'clock. Want to give a shout out to the UMaine women. They were selected to face Ohio State Buckeyes in the first round matchup. I believe I haven't double checked this yet because we've been obviously recording, but I believe in the Seattle region. For some reason, Ohio State and UMaine are in the Seattle region, so they'll be over there for their games. But
Although when they play each other, though, they're going to play at Ohio State.
yes, yeah.
Right. The top four seeds in each region, they host the first quad games, and then they have the regionals. There's two in Albany, and then there's two in Seattle.
Yes, yeah. Which is interesting. I mean, it's a lot of travel for either of those teams if they were to make it to the Seattle actual part of the region. But it's interesting. Early prediction on how that game goes.
Maine is they played Indiana very tough this year. I certainly expect them to give a good game. Obviously, Ohio State, the athletes that they get are certainly at a different level.
Yeah,
I think Maine certainly makes it a game, and I would say 15-20 point game
yeah,
probably.
yeah. I would agree. All right. Thank you again. You got anything else to say, Bob, before we end this thing right here?
My bracket's totally going to be messed up by about the end of the first day, I'm sure. But it's a lot of fun, and probably again the best 3 weeks of the sports calendar. To me, it's my favorite event of the whole year on a national level. Even bigger than this. I mean, Super Bowl is one day, but this is something that this really captures a lot of attention, and just really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and those first 2 days of the first round are always the most crazy days. There's games constantly going. There's like 4 games at a time going, and then there's like for the entire day on Thursday and Friday usually, and it's just a ton of fun, ton of upsets. I mean, that's what basketball junkies love, right? You can just watch 4 games at once for the entire day and just never stop watching. I mean, what else can you ask for?
No question, and certainly a great time of year.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again. Subscribe to the podcast, share it with everybody you know. You can find it on all platforms where you can get your podcasts. And just thank you again for listening to this episode.